Let's look at if day one. We got notes if day one here. Rather than type this in, I'll just talk about the code and see what's going on for today. We have integer x equals 10, y equals 5. String name equals 1, and that's pointing to Fred. Name 2 is a new string, and it's pointing to a different Fred. So name 1, name 2 are pointing to two different things. Num is a string, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have a Boolean variable answer, and it is set to the value true. Now that's not set to a string true, it's set to an actual value of true, and Booleans can be true or false. Here this says if x is equal to 10, then print the value is 10, and that will print the value is 10 because the if part is true. If x is greater than 5, now we have braces around two statements. Add 1 to x, so x will become 11. X is now 11. If this is true, it'll do these two lines. And if x is not greater than 5, if that's false, then it will skip these lines entirely and neither one of those will be done. If x is greater than or equal to 11, that is going to be true now because we changed the value of x up here. That's actually a true statement. This will be printed out. This line will be done. X might be 11. If name is equal to Fred, in other words, if name is pointing to Fred, not has the value Fred, but is pointing to Fred, it'll say hello Fred. That is actually true. If x does not equal 11, that will be false because I think, well, we made it 10. X was 10, we made it 11. If x is not 11, then, x is 11. So this will not be printed because this will end up being false. And exclamation mark is not. If name 1 equals name 2, that is not true. Yeah, they both are pointing to the value Fred, but they're actually pointing to two different values. So that'll actually be false. The names are the same. Well, that's not really what the names are, the variables. How about the variables are pointing to the same Fred? That's what a true, if that was true, that's what being true would mean for these two strings. Now dot equals, the names are the same with dot equals. It's not what they're pointing to now, it's the value that they're pointing to. As long as that's the same, then the dot equals will actually be true. If answer, now the point here is answer is set to true, and we do not ever have to say if answer is equal to true. That's what the if statement is checking for, to see if that is true. So all we have to do is say if answer, the answer must be true. And the only way this is printed is if answer is true. If answer was set to false, this line would not be executed, it would be skipped. If integer.parseInteger num equals 1, 2, 3, 4, Boolean value equals true. So the Boolean value will be set to true and the value would print true. Now both of these lines would be done because they're in between braces. Ifs only do the next line if there are no braces. Deciding if a number is even. Mod 2, that's a remainder. If the remainder by dividing by 2 is equal to 0, then we have an even number. If it's not equal to 0, then we have an odd number, if the remainder is not equal to 0. Now when you divide by 2, you can only have a remainder of 0 and 1. You can't have a remainder of 2, because that would be 0. System.out, print line, name Fred, name 1. What's going on here? We're sending the name to that parameter. If name.equals Fred, return true, otherwise return false. Now you cannot have returns, all the returns in if statements. So if you said if, let's say, not name.equals Fred, then return false, this is going to give you an error. And what the error will say is that you don't have a return statement. In other words, you don't have a guaranteed return statement. So you cannot have all of the return statements in an if. One of them has to not be in an if to not get an error. Print true if name is Fred, otherwise print false. Now in a print statement, if you're not returning anything, then you can have all the if statements, all the print statements you want without any problem at all.